Welcome to Stars Podcast, your growth mindset mecca. We are all about self-leadership principles here at Stars Podcast. Our guests come from all over the world with very unique stories of how they hacked their way into success. As you'll quickly find out, nothing happens overnight. And as always, enjoy the journey. Shake fast and pour hard. This episode is brought to you by Quiver Coffee. True, cold, nitro. Coffee that is just coffee and water. It's nitrogen infused for freshness, zero additives for taste. We also make America's favorite decaf nitro. As we said, it's natural energy, plant-based, unpasteurized, free from additives, always cold, brewed cold, shipped cold. I'll tell you what, I got a fresh pack in my fridge, a week ago? I drank the teas, the coffees, and all of them were amazing. I highly recommend the coffee. If you want something for no caffeine, go with the hibiscus. It's a little bit tart, but boy, it quenches your thirst. All of our listeners get a 10% discount when they use the code STARS, all caps, STARS, at checkout. Shake fast and pour hard. All right, guys, welcome back. This is Stars Podcast coming out of Rocinante Studios in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Ron Jordan, out of course, Rocinante Studios, and coming at you on this Sunday morning, talking with Reid Robinson. He's a co-founder of CocoNFT out of Vancouver, Canada. We are introduced by our amazing mod over at NF Daddy's Discord, Castor. He and I have been using the Steppen app. If you're familiar with it, it's an exercise to earn app for the blockchain. But anyhow, that aside, Reid, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. It's my pleasure. Wanted to ask you, how do you know Castor?
Yeah, it's funny you're saying Castor. I've never, spoken to the point where I know how to pronounce his username, because I've always used K-Store, but it could be Castor. And
the only reason I say it that way is because on Potos game night, Celia calls it Castor. So that's
funny the way that works. Like in this space, there's so many words that I'm never really sure. Like POAP was a weird one, or Pope tokens. I was like, these Pope tokens, and someone's like, it's POAP. I was like, all right.
I actually made a post about that. I put, because we were eating at Buca de Beppo, and they had the Pope like literally right there, and it was at NFT Miami, and I had my POAPs, and I had a little duck. It had an NFC chip in it, and so I had a POAP that was the thing, and then I said POAP or Pope, and I had them side by side.
That's a good one. Yeah, they should have done that for like those tip jar questionnaires during those weeks. Sure. All right, so I know Castor or Castor. They were actually one of the first ever members of the CocoNFT Discord. And this was a time when we had launched nothing. We had I think we had announced nothing. Like, it's actually a mystery. I remember asking him more recently, I'm like, how did you find it? He's like, I don't remember. He's like, I think I saw one of your like tweets or an Instagram post or something. We did try back then, like $100 worth of Facebook ads. So maybe he got it through an Instagram ad via them. But we connected, and I went to, we connected, talked a lot about just, art and actually food and all these other, parenting as well. And he was just a great person. And he was one of our actually earliest beta users. I think, if not like probably the first one outside of the team to actually try our product and give us some feedback. And yeah, it's been phenomenal. We're, getting to know him and seeing what he's doing. And, he also introduces us to a lot of projects, and we talk about like what's going on in like the NFT space overall, which has always been fun.
Yeah, he's always a wealth of knowledge. He gets into these random fringe projects, and he's like, hey, I think this might be something you want to get into, or like, hey, you should reach out to this person. And that was one of those folks that ended up being you. And it took us a couple of times to get this thing on the books, but I'm glad we finally did.
Yes.
as everybody knows, like trying to track down a schedule in the summertime is firstly like next to impossible. And then secondly, add kids on top of it, add Web3 on top of it. Now we're talking like very small parts of our lives can we intersect. So I really do appreciate you popping in, and kind of I want to hang out with you about what CocoNFT is. But before that, what we usually talk about here on the Growth Mindset podcast is really that, like, what makes you, what I have found inside of this space is a lot of people are very curious because they are those, I don't want to say, I do want to say trendsetters, forward thinkers, early adopters. A lot of those folks transcend into this like growth mindset, always looking forward, always trying to evolve and be better. I'm curious if that's the bucket you fall into as well, and kind of curious what growth mindset really means to you.
Great question. I think I definitely strive to learn. I think I'm the type of person that enjoys learning about as many random topics as possible. Is the type of like growth I like. So I'll go deep in a few areas that are really pertinent to like what I do or what I enjoy or what I'm focused on. And then at the same point, I enjoy just a smattering of random stuff. And I'll end up I'm the type of person that, you know, will hear about a weird topic and then research it for like 6 hours. And then I'm like, all right, now I know about this really weird topic. And I'm kind of known for that amongst my friends as well. Of like, oh yeah, really knows like the weirdest facts about stuff.
So you're good at the quiz shows. They always invite you to
Yes, yeah, I'm the
quiz
random,
nights.
you know, like you want your people for various things. I'm
Yep.
like the random knowledge person.
You're the wild card. Big risk,
Yeah,
big reward.
yeah. I'm like, I don't know anything about pop culture. I'm not going to help you there. Won't help too much in sports. And then yeah, you're like random knowledge. I got that.
For sure.
Um,
What's like one of those
but
like super obscure things that you've went into, and like something that you pull out as an icebreaker sometimes?
oh, that's an interesting one.
Like, do you have a go-to, like, hey, this is something interesting to start a conversation?
If it's about myself, I'll probably talk about like back in college. I actually started and for many years was the head of a Quidditch team, like a Muggle Quidditch team. And I
Love it.
loved it. I had a phenomenal time. So I always kind of skew more towards the like random
Yeah.
of things, but that's actually like, I mean, in many ways how I ended up in the NFT space. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Quidditch was great, by the way. Shout out to anybody who's listening who is a Quidditch player or ever wanted to play. For everybody questioning, like, is he really talking about like the Harry Potter sport? Yes, exactly that. Although they rebranded recently. I think now it's called Quad Ball.
It's called quad ball.
Yeah, they wanted to distance from Harry Potter and particularly J.K. Rowling, who, you know, on recent years has certainly gone a particular direction. And so, yeah, they changed that up.
So how do you
Yeah.
play? I've actually never seen it played outside of the movie.
Okay, so there are, yeah, there's the 4 positions, just like the movie. So you have your beaters, which are the people who kind of like pelt people and try to get them out. Kind of plays out like dodgeball, where there's like 3 kind of dodgeballs on the field and they can go around pegging people. And if you get hit with one, you have to drop whatever you've got, run back to your hoops as a way to kind of like reset. Um, the seeker, who most people are curious about as being like the one who has to catch the snitch, right? The snitch in Muggle Quidditch actually is a person with a sock hanging out behind their shorts with like a little tennis ball usually at the end or something like that.
Yeah.
And the 2 seekers have to chase, you know, the campus or whatever to try to hunt down the typically
So it's
like an incredibly
capture the
good
flag mixed with
dodgeball mixed with like some actual scoring, like handball, I guess would be the other one thrown in. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a contact sport as well, which is interesting. And I don't know, it's a great time. I had a phenomenal time. We went to a bunch of tournaments, like where we would like all, get on a bus and drive down. And
Yeah.
there's news clips of me, which is really funny. Especially just like I started out like in the very early, like there used to be only like 12 teams, and now there's I think over 1,000. There's quite a few.
Do you find yourself doing that quite a bit? Is like gathering, like being the gatherer of people or ideas? And like,
Yeah, occasionally. I think it stems to like, I don't know, being excited about something and trying to like talk to other people about this like really random exciting thing, and then other people are like, oh, that's exciting, let's do something. And I was like, all right, who's gonna do it?
yeah, but I'll tell you what, trying to get that message across is an art form. It's really, there's some nuance to it, to actually like have a persuasive conversation with people. Has that always come easily to you, or is that something that has evolved?
That's a good question.
Do you notice it at all?
Sometimes I do. I'm also a big board game player. Like I love deception board games, and that's
Yeah.
probably where like you hone that skills the most, if you will. I love those games. Shout out to anybody who's into games like Resistance and stuff, or Coup and whatnot.
What, I don't know what
yeah,
coup
I mean,
is. What is coup?
Coup's a great. It's like a quick, faster deception board game. The other very popular one of my last company was actually a game called Secret Hitler, which is a great board game, but if you're ever playing in public, it gets a little bit, or like anywhere near public, gets a little bit worrisome as you start yelling at people that they're fascists. But that's like part of the game.
Yeah.
Like, you're a fascist, and you're like, no, I'm not.
Yeah,
like,
you
what
want
is
to make sure
going
you're in
on
the
over
right
there?
neighborhood for that one.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, all right.
Okay.
Not,
Yeah, I've
not
just
your
never
airport
heard of
game.
that one.
Oh yeah, Coup's great too. But anyway, do I? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I don't know, I enjoy it. At the same point, I think it's something I've definitely grown more like conscious of. Is particularly at work, you never want to get like too many people excited about something that you've not like committed to doing. I think that same type of personality and mindset led me particularly early on in my career to like take on too much, and lead to like pretty ridiculous burnout. As I'm sure many people who probably resonate with the early part can relate to as well. And I think there was an expression that I heard that really stuck with me, and I'm sure I should figure out the source of this one day, but it was, if you can't say no, then your yes means nothing. And well, I got my dog there. But yeah, that expression just really stuck with me as a way to kind of remind myself like of all the things that you do get excited about, and all the things that you want to do, and all the things that like do seem exciting. Like you need to be conscious of like your own bandwidth and your own ability.
Do you do a lot of scheduling then to keep that in check? How do you keep it in check?
Good question. I'm a big fan, and I'm showing you here, but I'm gonna show you back with like whiteboards. I've grown very. I love whiteboards, schedule blocking, but really whiteboards are great for me.
Yes, you're a schedule blocker too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I will block like, dude, my schedule is largely not meetings. It's largely time for me to get stuff done.
I'm telling you, you have to schedule to work. Like it has to be that way. I'm a strong believer in that. And I've been talking about that relentlessly on my spaces. Is I think the number one reason why people become burnt out is like you're talking about, they've said yes to way too much. They've not audited in a long time. So everything just keeps piling, and they're like, it's like hoarding opportunities, like let other people have them. It's okay.
It's true. And for anybody that, I don't
hard.
know, like the reason I found the whiteboard works for me too is like a more like the calendaring, I think helps for me on the micro, right? Like helping me understand like what I'm meant to do that week or that day and so forth. But the whiteboard helps me zoom out a bit some days, where I'm like, all right, list what you got to do. And you start to notice that like can add up, and you're looking at it, and then I'm on a call talking about like what we should do, and I'm looking to my left and there's my little whiteboard, and it's like, Reid, you've got like 18 things on this list. Like, do you really want to do this other thing? Or like what's not getting done?
I like the physical reminder too, like right in your face, that whiteboard. some people use Post-its, a lot of people with the whiteboard or even like cork boards and all that stuff. Yeah.
I used to use a lot of Post-its. My wife murdered me because eventually my whole like desk and office was just like Post-its. And my laptop would have like 4 Post-its on it, and they would, get stuck to my they'd be stuck on like my butt or my foot, and I'm like walking around the house, and like there goes a Post-it.
Yeah.
It was. Then that's when I shifted to whiteboard. I tried a lot of tools. I really wanted, like, obviously, shockingly, I enjoy a lot of technology, and I love like learning about new SaaS products. And I really wanted to find I wanted to get into a habit of using like one of those like Todoist type apps. And I tried TickTick, I tried Todoist, I tried doing my trusty Evernote, and I just never was able to convert properly to a digital one. And then ultimately found like a good old like $10 whiteboard was the way to go.
Well, there's a lot of study out there to even prove that writing it down, visually seeing it, saying it back to yourself, it's a whole imprinting almost inside of your head about your to-do list whenever you do it that way. And I don't know that, because I don't use a personal assistant like the way that a lot of like my friends do, like Siri or Alexa or whoever. They use it for reminders, and that's all well and good, but for me, like actually writing it down, and I feel like so old school right now, as I write it down, I say it back to myself and I repeat it, and I just keep doing that. And then it's just it becomes, whenever you have the block of time to make it happen, you're like, oh, I need to do these things, and you can almost like see the list.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny to meet another person that does something similar on that. Most people just laugh at my whiteboard. They're like, "Are you finding that the whiteboard?"
Yeah, well, I bet they're not as productive as you are, though.
Yeah, we'll see.
Not the cast shade, but list doers and time blockers are more productive. It's just everybody. I don't want to say everybody it's this way, but I feel that most of the people that I see doing it are doing a lot of things. We'll say that they're very deliberate about their time. They respect time. They understand its significance, because they don't have much of it in terms of like where they want to spend it. They want to spend it wisely, and those types of people that respect time, I think, are very productive in whatever thing that they're doing, because they're purposeful about it. But that's a pulpit. That's a Sunday coming at you, Reid. So, all right, moving forward though, and I appreciate your attention to detail and the quad ball expose here. I'm excited about that. Just like you, I love diving into stuff like that as well. Like one of those things was jujitsu for me a while back, probably like 4 years ago at this point. Like just martial arts in general, running and exercise. I'm curious, do you have like an exercise regimen that you do, or when you get into exercising, like you go to
used to starting a company, particularly in the NFT space, and then I had my kid 2 weeks after we launched. That was my first kid.
That's perfect timing.
Perfect timing. That was like I actually just did my first like spin class since before he was born, and he's 9 months old now this week. So I'm getting back.
Cool.
But all right, so it's funny, but at the same breath or same sentence, I'll say that I'm not a big proponent of a lot of like metaverses out there, metaverse talk overall. One of the workout tools that I found most effective for me was actually Oculus.
Okay.
I'm a strange fan. So Beat Saber is great, but there's other ones that get ridiculous. Like for me, great workouts in. Probably Fit XR is one. It's kind of like boxing DDR, if you will, if you remember like Dance Dance Revolution. There's another one.
How about to stop you, I know the project developer on DDR.
Oh,
that's a claim to fame of mine. Yeah.
That's cool. I enjoyed DDR. I had like one of those like
The mats.
mats, yeah, at home.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun. It was a great thing to do with friends, too. It was
I was a bigger Guitar Hero person. Like I like
yeah,
Guitar Hero a lot. So I played that more than I played DDR.
that's fair. That could be why I ended up in. But there's another one, Thrill of the Fight. It's a
Okay.
really fascinating one. You actually like box fight a like digital or like an AI opponent. It's not a real life opponent. And maybe they added that more recently. I don't know. Again, 9 months of getting to a point where my newborn or baby is now like doing well. It's making me get back into things. But that was, yeah, if anybody has an Oculus and has only used it for gaming, I've told this to like every gamer friend. I actually had a fascinating conversation in my last job. I was talking to a director at Google, and he had 2 kids and was talking to me about, his struggles working out. Like, we were waiting for everybody else to join the call. So that's why we're talking weird stuff here. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh yeah, like I have this bike behind me. I haven't used it in like months. And I was like, well, I'm a big fan of like Oculus because it's like, oh, I have an Oculus. I've never used it for much. And I got an email from him a month later saying that it was like completely transformed the way he works out.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I evangelized that, but I tried what I used to be doing was them in the mornings, was when I was able to fit it in. But that's what I tried to do this last week. But my mornings used to be like, all right, if I got it in at 7 a.m., that was great. Now it's like, get it in at 5:30 in the morning before the baby wakes up.
For sure.
Which is a little bit trickier.
Yeah, especially with an oscillating sleep schedule right now and all of that. So
trying to get through that. Yeah, ideally, it's funny, I'm saying this, we moved to a new place that's across the street from a community center, and I literally have like the little pamphlets in front of me of like their schedule of the classes. Because I find I need I like people or like an experience to be able to do workout stuff, because I find it like that social connection and that like camaraderie, or that like even just that feeling of like responsibility that you have, like someone else is committed to this with you, means a lot to me when I'm like convincing myself to like be consistent at something.
Yeah, I actually just was talking to somebody today about consistency and motivation and trying to find the motivation. And I was like, dude, just be consistent. You'll be motivated. You'll figure out like each day some reason to go. Trust. So do you have a whenever you're not working out, is there like other stuff that you like to do to decompress, or is it just really, is it hard to find like that self-care time?
Has been.
Yeah.
Getting better though, actually. Getting a lot better over the last particularly 2 months. I like video games. I'm
What do you go to?
like, I play a mixture, but like mostly if I'm playing, I play with, once again, like for me, it's a social thing. So I play with a buddy of mine, Apex Legends, quite a bit, which is like a first-person shooter style battle royale. I've got a buddy who I met playing Xbox, and we've now been like Xbox friends for 4 or 5 years. Like we've known each other to the point where we both had kids, and I know what his life's up to, and we we text in real life now, and it's very funny when you talk to non-gamers about like making gamer friends, but they're always like, particularly like typically a good friend in life, but you're like, I've never actually met them.
Right. Yeah, shoot, I got a company right now with 2 other guys or 3 other guys that I've never met. Like,
yeah, that's
yeah. So it's kind of crazy whenever you talk about that to somebody outside of the internet space in general. What are you talking about? And then you go in the blockchain, and then they think you're out of this world.
That you even know their name,
Yeah, right. It's like, so. Well, I guess that's a great segue to get into the CocoNFT and like anonymity, the kind of the subject around anonymity inside of the Web3 space. Like, I guess give me a brief on CocoNFT, and then we'll transition into like the anonymity versus doxed conversation.
Ooh, that's a fun one. All right. So CocoNFT, I get, the spiel for us is, we're around to really help creators get started with NFTs. We birthed out of early last year, like January, February. I was following a lot of, I had a number of friends who got into NFTs, particularly here in Vancouver. For anybody that's not familiar, it's where like Dapper Labs was kind of born and grew. And so known a couple of people that have worked there over the years, and they're constantly talking about NFTs, but it was mostly just like crypto kitties and smaller things prior to really last year. And then I started to see things take off, and I learned more. And I did one of my, all right, let's spend like 6 hours researching this random topic, and I got like more excited about the possibilities that were there, particularly things like the royalties and the fact that this was very visual, it was very art leaning, and to me that was like a really cool use case for blockchain. Because most of the time when I had researched like what was going on in the world of crypto and blockchain, there's a lot of DeFi, and DeFi stuff just doesn't get me excited. Like it's cool, but it's really like just how to turn money into more money, typically for like rich people who are already rich in dollar values. And I was like, that's not very exciting. But when started to see the NFTs, we talk more about art, and we're talking about like creators, and that's a space I understand. Like my background has always been working in like social media technology, and my wife at home is a photographer, so obviously develops a lot of her business leveraging social. And so I started to see like the opportunity for all these small creators out there who, for the most part, live and breathe off branded partnerships. That's like if 99% of a independent creator's revenue that if they want to turn this into a real thing is like how they're going to do it for most of them. And there's constantly the conversation of how do you diversify your income? How do you become less dependent on brand partnerships? How do you do more things that are genuine and authentic, and make sure that you're not kind of needing to sell yourself just to be able to pay your rent, which is a very real thing. And that's when I saw NFTs having a really cool opportunity for those types of creators. But then I started to look into how do you make an NFT, and how do you, do all of that? And it's a horrible process. And I think as the overall NFT and crypto space is starting to acknowledge slowly, most of the technology in the space is really difficult. Even the smartest people every day someone gets scammed out of a Bored Ape, right? Like, and then in the same breath, people be like, well, the technology is great. And I'm like, I don't know if the technology is great if that keeps happening. And it scares newcomers. Like this space is incredibly intimidating for people, let alone the upfront cost that a lot of creators would have to put into just being able to sell stuff is nuts. And that was probably even worse last year. So our whole hypothesis was, could we leverage, like the largest media or probably visual social network that has 15 years worth of catalog, which is Instagram, and create a way for creators to get started with NFTs and create like a link in bio shoppable feed for themselves that would make sense for their creators. That would be very easy to do. And so in October, we launched with actually Susan Sarandon, great person. It was a lot of fun working with her and her team. CocoNFT, the platform, which allows creators to create their first crypto wallet just by signing up with Facebook or Google. And then you can also use MetaMask. And then you connect your Instagram account, select which post you want to be able to sell as an NFT. You do the signatures, and that's it. You don't need any ETH in your wallet up front to be able to do it. And so creators can literally come in, get started, and have like a feed of their Instagram posts as NFTs that they can share with their followers. And that's kind of what CocoNFT is and what we've built so far.
So is it safe to say that you're a Web3 social media?
In a way, yes. We try not to be like a social media platform. We're more trying to be the on-ramp because we don't want to take creators away from where they are, is I think a key thing here. Like as many platforms as I see out there that are trying to create native Web3 social networks, I think our focus has been on the 99% of creators who are still largely Web2 and trying to get into Web3 and want to do that in ways that are still going to feel understandable to their audience. Because that's actually like probably the creator's biggest challenge after just learning about the world of NFTs is if they say, okay, I want to do something with NFTs. If you're let's say you're a medium to large creator, right? Like you might have, like, say 100,000 Instagram followers. Like you're not someone famous, but you've got a following, right? That person typically is going to have a couple options in the NFT space. Number one is probably the most prevalent that we saw particularly a lot of last year, which is they're probably getting a million DMs from projects who are trying to pay them to promote their projects. And unfortunately, I'd say that's probably what the majority of people did in the last 12 months, which led to a lot of bad things, shockingly. But the other side is a creator might want to create their own NFT project. These days, I think creating a new 10K project or 10K style project is really a tough shot if that's what you're going for. But that is obviously what a lot did last year. And the other choice is to do, like, if you're more on the art side of things or have a use case in the art style thing, to do, more small scale style stuff there. But a really big challenge does become like explaining any of that to your followers, like being able to go out and say, okay, I've learned about NFTs. Here's why I'm excited about it. And here's why you should too, is actually a very difficult journey right now for people, particularly when so much market sentiment or like around NFTs is not great. Like there's a lot of reasons that anybody who's not familiar with NFTs will like throw out and be like the environment and the costs or the scams or the security and like so on and so forth. There's a lot of challenges to overcome in that space right now. We're in our space right now.
Yeah, and I think some of those challenges come from this anonymity of being doxxed or not doxxed. And for those of you who don't know, so dox means like what we're doing here. We have our name, we have our face. It's saying who we are. Being undoxed means like you're behind a PFP, which is a profile picture. So it can be a cartoon, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be your face. There's no requirement on that. So that is becoming more and more used in the crypto space. And yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on remaining anonymous versus doxing yourself, because if we're going to really go into the blockchain, it is trustless. It's immutable. So there's really no way for somebody to quote unquote lie on the blockchain. So there's an argument both ways, and I'd love to know where you lean on it.
Yeah, it's a great question. And you know what, at the end of the day, I think the undoxed dox argument to me comes more down to reputation risk than it does dox or undox, because no offense to Joe Smith in Cincinnati, but if there's a Joe Smith in Cincinnati who says he's launching an NFT project, I might know his name is Joe Smith in Cincinnati and he could show me his driver's license and everything, but I've never heard of him, right? Like he could be, an 18-year-old recent high school grad. He's got nothing to lose if he rugs the project, right? Yeah. Yep. Whereas if someone like, I actually don't even know how to pronounce their name. I've never said it out loud, but like 9x9x9, like some of these people who are like, uh-oh, 1 second, I might need some help with the baby. Be right back.
All right, we'll pause.
I needed to. Oh.
All right, we're good.
We're good. All right.
Yeah, we were just getting into like the reputation risk about somebody who, you may be doxxed, but you have no reputation to really levy. So what's it matter? And that's where we left it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, in that example, like there's a lot of creators who I've collected from and projects I've bought from that are from undoxed founders. But I've trusted their person, I don't know what you want to call it, their identity, right? Mm-hmm. For that.
Do you use burner wallets when you interact with those types of contracts and then transfer it after?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I've got burner. I've got like main hot, right? Then I've got, which is like my identity wallet, if you will. Mm-hmm. Then I have my burner wallet, which I actually call my mint wallet. And then I have a vault of Core 2 vaults. Yeah. And yeah, that's the way I interact with things
Same.
for that.
That's what I've been, that's sort of been my way of telling people, if you are going to be traveling around, travel light and use
so
burner
true.
wallets, because like you don't know. And most of the time, yes, you are totally fine. And I mean, you could be doxxed or undoxxed, it doesn't matter. Like if it's a malware situation or you replicated a website,
Right.
it's
And sometimes they do such a good job. I mean, they're
so
getting
good.
so good. And I think that's what people don't understand. They're like, oh, like I spot scam emails all the time. I was like, these are not scam emails. These are like professional operations. Like they
Just
know exactly what they're doing.
this morning there were, I was looking up immutable X stuff. Somebody was
Mm.
asking during our blockchain basics course, they said, hey, how do I look up immutable X transactions? And I was like, well, there's probably a mutascan, because I don't use IMX very much, and there's an mutascan. But when I look up immutable X, there's advertisements that point me to a different site.
Of
Advertisements.
course. Yeah, that's common. It's yeah,
So
it's
you just, all of that to be said is like, even just the security in and of itself is something to continue to watch out for if you are going to enter the space. And I always say, go to the verified Twitter account, the verified Discord, the verified website, and follow links only from those areas.
Yep, 100%. And that's why like any project I see that doesn't have like an official links channel, I'm like, just you're not doing the bare minimum to protect your community at that point.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
yeah,
I enabled I thought I was like being a real sleeper on this, was the 2FA. I didn't have 2FA on, and I'm an admin, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, even with 2FA, you got to be careful which you choose, because 2FA on your phone, for instance, is actually not very secure. A lot of people don't know this. But it's how when you follow on with most of these, like, seeing verified people whose Twitter accounts were taken over who say that they do have 2FA, it's, someone spoofed or someone basically took over their phone number and knew that they had 2FA. Like it's crazy out there. So yeah, use a Google Authenticator, or, if you're getting real crazy like myself, you have a little tiny device that's actually a physical 2FA that you actually need. It's kind of like a hardware wallet of 2FA, if you will.
Yep.
But it's going back to the earlier point we made. Like when you talk about this, like, how do you get newcomers into NFTs? Yeah, what do you do?
This isn't
and then
the way
you're like,
to do
by
it.
the way, you need like 4 wallets. And they're like, I don't even know what a wallet is. Like, why do I need 4 of them? And you're like, oh yeah, let me break this down. And I think that's where, when we talk about like we're so early and things like that, and people getting excited for like taking this all mainstream, right? I think those are the pieces that need to be fixed for this to really scale. Because I don't see, people will talk about like, oh, decentralization is amazing and everything should be on the blockchain. I'm like, and people are talking about like, I want my passport on the blockchain. I'm like, look, if my mom ever has to sign up for MetaMask, like we've messed up. Like as a whole space, like we have done something completely wrong. If like that's the future that people are trying to get to. We need a lot more better systems that are going to get us to that future. Anyway, it's exciting that there's so much like innovation and opportunity still out there, genuinely.
Well, and I
like,
think
you talk about.
That's why like an entry point, like you're saying with CocoNFT, is a really awesome one. That's the same thing that I do with PoApps and other like really non-invasive ways. Like our loyalty app is just a email account. So like trying to get people into blockchain in a way that it just introduces them to it. You're not going to like make a full-time job out of this application. However, like this is a great way for you to get into it safely. And I think the user experience at the very beginning matters so much, because you could turn somebody away very quickly if you rug them. Their first project and you rug them, done.
Yeah, and not only that, they're going to tell everybody like, avoid this NFT
absolutely
thing.
I just lost $600 on this Penguin.
Yeah.
Like, shout out to Penguin. Sorry, but
You're knocking on pudgy penguins here?
no, I didn't call them pudgy penguins. I just said penguins. I would never call anybody out.
It's all good. It's
unless
all good.
they screw up, and then I will call you out.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I completely agree. And going back to, I'd say most of the like influencer pumped projects of 2021 were of that variety.
Right.
For like countless examples. I mean, even Miss Universe did an NFT project that rugged. Like it's, you talk about doxed, undoxed, like that wasn't one that was like someone used the Miss Universe name. Like they promoted that on air. It was like on their Twitter account and they rugged. Like that's wild.
Yep. And
stuff like that was happening.
Yeah. And it just shows how out of touch a lot of the brands are that are trying to come into the Web3 space. It's like, I think about it from my martial arts background. And the reason why I think about it like that is if our gym got really, really exciting and popular, and then like somebody came from, we've never seen them before, comes in and like tries to teach class, it would be like, who is this person trying to teach? Like, what are they doing? And that's how I feel about a lot of the brands that come in. They're like, they come in, they issue this like really shitty art NFT and push it out, and they push a bunch of numbers and they drive up gas for everybody else, and then they don't do anything with it. Like they barely even have a Discord. And then all of those people now we're faced to deal with in the NFT community shitting on NFTs. And I'm like, but wait a minute, you bought the one that, come on, you're killing me.
I know. Yeah. Looking at you, but Budweiser, Pepsi, really every brand out there.
Right.
Yeah, they were, it's tough. God, Pepsi's
But
dropped
it's
last
not
year.
tough. That's the thing though. It's not tough. Just work. Nike did it. They bought Artifact. They bought a company that came from
That's an extreme, but yes. Yeah.
But I think if you want to really dip your toes into the space, you should be contracting, or at least like getting input from advisors from the space.
Yeah, you know what?
Like there's a huge opportunity for a job there.
I agree, but having worked with like brands on the marketing teams for a number of years, I'll say that I probably, what's going on is you have someone high up or even low within the organization who's like, we need to do NFTs. It's all the rage right now. And then they go out there and they try to find, because a lot of these people do hire advisors. I would say almost all of the NFT projects you've seen from a brand have hired a external advisor, right? The problem, as I'm sure many people know, is like everyone's an NFT advisor. Like all of those people, anybody who is anybody on Twitter is an NFT advisor, seemingly. And to the point where it doesn't even make sense. Some of these people, you're like, wait, you were trying to like promote like, energy drinks last year, like what, or like, you were in the insurance space. Like, how are you an NFT advisor? Like you were just talking about this like a month ago. Now you're an advisor for a whole other category. And I think that's why we see so much of that same playbook, right? Like there's just like rinse and repeat for a lot of the brands out there, but probably a lot of the people advising them and a lot of what they saw working just didn't make sense.
What are you seeing that is working though right now? We're coming up on the top of the hour, so I want to see something that like you're excited about the space, and then where people can find you at.
Yeah, of course. So, all right, we'll finish off on the branding. I got to give a shout out to Perfy, Perfy. They're a drink company. They're creating like a whole new like drink brand. And go check out what they're doing on Twitter, particularly with the Doodles community. I think, they're trying to build a brand, and they've incorporated, and gotten like Doodles to agree to like use their Doodles in their cans. And it's just like getting people pumped, right? And I think that's really cool. And I think that's a really awesome way to see brands doing stuff, is like engaging with a community, right? Like find communities out there that actually align with what your brand is doing. Like, I give a great example. Like, if someone were, Patagonia, they're probably not going to get into NFTs. Of all the brands, I could say Patagonia is probably not. But if they were, Woody's, if anybody's familiar with the Woody's NFT collection, Woody's is a phenomenal one, very focused on outdoors, camping. Like, they even do, like, at NFT NYC, their thing that I unfortunately couldn't go to, was too early for me, but was like a walk through Central Park. Like, that's what their community did together. I think that's where brands need to be finding those opportunities to find like actual connections for brands and stuff, and for community, and they understand that community element of NFTs. So I'm excited to see. I think we'll see more of that. I hope we'll see more of that. Yeah, how to find me? I mean, I'm Reid Out Loud. I'm also, or on Twitter, I had to add the underscore. That guy in New Zealand was just not willing to give me that handle. But also just CocoNFT, exactly as it sounds, CoCoNFT. You'll also get to me that way. And yeah, I think, anybody wants to engage, that's where to find me. Other things that I'm excited about, that's a great question. Honestly, I think this bear market's proving tough. Like, it's been extremely tough for us at CocoNFT. It's been tough for a lot of people. And I think what I'm excited about is to see what's born from this time. I think we went through a phase last year where everybody was throwing ideas at the wall, and everybody was getting money for their ideas that they threw at a wall, which is a really fun time to go through. But I think right now we're in a phase where your idea needs to survive. And I was on a space the other day talking about like building in a bear market, and I think survive is the key word. And I think what's going to be interesting is to see what survives in that time period, what is born as well during this period that actually works without a ton of outside money. And like CocoNFT, we were born and got to grow through outside money. That's how we made it for now. And then I think it'll be really interesting to see how those dynamics change in the year, or hopefully not much longer, that we're going into. And see what gets us through them. How does the community survive? A lot of people are talking about how things are quieter now and how people have left, and in some ways that could be good, right? Like, things need to mature, some things need to die, some things need to be reborn, some things need to change to survive. So really curious to see how that's all going to play out, and obviously just excited to be on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think we'll all be excited to be on the other side of it. However, a controlled burn on a forest is not a bad thing. So it comes back pretty beautiful at the other side. Well, Reid, thank you so much for joining me today, and our listeners. I'm sure that they gleaned a lot from what we talked about. I actually was really surprised that we got down so deep into that. So I appreciate you being vulnerable with me, and excited to see where CocoNFT goes, and also just to see where the space goes in general. So as always, guys, enjoy the journey. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for sticking here until the very, very end. If you wouldn't mind just leaving a comment, or subscribing, or liking the podcast, or wherever you downloaded this, maybe it was from YouTube, I would love for that. You take an extra couple seconds to give us some more love. Even though you have listened here to the very, very end, we appreciate that so much. Could you also go over to thestarspodcast.com if you found any of this really interesting and you wanted to dive in a little bit further, or go to our Discord, which is Rocinante Studios NFT. Enjoy the journey. Check out our Twitter Spaces show live every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a Rug Radio presentation hosted by Ron Jordan and co-hosted by Alyssa Jordan. It's called the Growth Mindset Mecca, where we go over different techniques that we use to hack our minds and our guests' minds to get the maximum potential out of each and every day. Check us out Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard over at Twitter Spaces.